It's gonna sit in the middle of the
No one's
table.
Okay.
No one's gonna touch it.
Sarah?
This is the March 22nd
So I
special
I
meeting
have slides I put together
of
based on
the
information.
Dog Park
I'm
Committee.
gonna send them to you now.
Uh,
Put up on that
I
drive.
know we're being televised. Is there anyone else recording this meeting? There is no one else to record this meeting, thank goodness.
Jim, you
All right,
should
would
have
you
access
take a look at the
to
minutes and
I don't have the link with me though with this computer.
tell Elise how well she has done this week?
Howard's got one.
No, those are,
Other than that, I can't get them in.
Oh, his things.
Oh, you want,
yeah.
Jim,
Oh,
can you
Jim.
move next to Jackie?
They'd like
you
you to
can't, you're
move
not
right
on
over
camera.
Do you
Sorry.
need,
Don't be shy, Jim.
I was trying to be rogue.
Well, I know, but I have to get you in.
See, I didn't, I'm not the only
no
one that
roll,
skips a chair.
not allowed.
Thank you very much.
Going rogue. Nice.
I did read
Is Nicole
these
coming today?
earlier and they
Should be
looked
late.
splendid.
Okay, she's got the,
I
Yeah,
have no memory
I mean,
of the
it's
meeting,
here too.
so.
oh, yeah.
But,
It's-
she's
right,
gonna
I
be
looked at it.
You've been catching it from me.
Just not going for
Oh, thanks.
it. You said, you're the one that said bring snacks.
Yeah, but
You were.
I didn't work out this morning. I gotta work out after this, so it's not gonna help my
So you can't
situation.
have snacks.
Jim, are you online? Do you have access? Because I'd rather send you the link than open my email on TV.
That's why I'm not touching my computer, because I'll do things I don't intend to do.
Oh, look at how tiny.
Yeah.
Okay, so you should just get the
My
link and then you can add it
7
there.
cracked. It's, yeah.
Are there any corrections
Oh, it's in
or
the
additions
minutes.
or
I think.
omissions?
No, they didn't,
Oh,
because
I had them
I'm
online and I didn't
terrible.
have any.
I didn't
Okay,
read them
why don't you
online.
move to accept them?
I think
Thank
she
you
needs
for
to
handing me
finish
yours.
looking at them.
Okay.
I just don't want to open my email on TV.
Right.
I see.
I looked at them in the parking lot.
That's good.
Yeah, that looks alright. Thank you.
I moved to approve them.
I assigned you random tasks.
It's been moved. Is there anyone who seconds that?
Second.
Seconded that the minutes be approved as completed. All those in favor?
I
Opposed? It is unanimous vote.
I don't have permission to upload.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, do we have anything special to report from either of the two subgroups, or do you want to go right to the folder or flyer or pamphlet you guys called it, right? One of
Which
you did.
team would you like to hear from first?
I don't care. Either one.
Can you share it
Either
with
one.
me?
Tell us what you would want.
I believe the cost analysis folks are having mild technical challenges, so would community outreach be able to go
Oh,
first?
sure.
Yes.
I
Please.
did speak to the chief of police in Auburn about the memorial, because I know that everybody was concerned about it. And as the information that I got an email from Nancy from the Fur Friends that gave me a little bit more detail. So I kind of just basically was confirming what everybody had been discussing outside of here. So I confirmed that they had no problem with moving it. I
Okay.
confirmed that they had no problem moving with, to the other side of the park. As far as he knew, the officer's mother was not in town and his brother was out on the Cape, but it's my understanding that they are not the ones that put it there.
No.
So they're not the ones
No.
that would have objections to moving it, and I
Mhm.
think that they would also be very happy that we're gonna clean it, so, and restore it. And so, the chief had no problems with all of that. One of the things I did want to add to this, though, that he did add, was that, and something that will be an afterthought probably, but I wanna say it now, is that he had suggested, and I agree, And if you actually remove the dog park from this whole situation, I agree that this should be there anyway, is that a call box should be there in case anything happens.
Yep.
Because you've got the tot lot, you've got all, the track, and now you've got the dog park. So it'd be very, very good for the community itself,
I agree.
with the dog park there to have a call box.
It makes
there.
a lot of
Yep.
sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
Do they have one at, Pappas?
I
I
don't
don't think so.
I don't
Not that I know
think
of.
so.
know.
I don't think any town sites have them, do they?
Yeah.
I don't
I just thought it was something that I wanted to throw out there in the beginning so that
Yeah.
we knew it was like
I
one of the things like the
agree.
water that we should have there,
I actually think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, so there's no problem with moving it at all. I think
Okay,
that's great.
great. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Speaking of water, did you call the foundation?
Yeah. I mean, there's no hard and fast rule that you can't not have it in there. That said, there has not been a dog park that has been approved without having it inside of the park.
Good to know.
And then that is more or less kind of what was told to me is more or less preferred, so.
I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
like-
Yeah.
it's not,
It
it's
was
not,
approved, yeah.
typed out somewhere that this is, but it was more or less stated to me that, yeah, it's what you should have, and all of the ones that we've had to date are there. I do have this captioned in a slide, but since it was discussed in the same conversation, I'll throw this out there. As I told you a couple sessions ago, there was, a change in how they were doing it through the grants. So they're only doing 10 per year. So at this point, 3 of them have been used, and they have 2 applications in process. So, no guarantee those 2 are gonna get in there, but effectively 5 open slots, possibly 2 more depending on what's going on. That's as of today.
Okay,
That's great.
that's good to
Speed
know.
is of the essence.
So,
Absolutely.
If you email it to me, I can add it on my phone.
I think I already did. May have came from my Yahoo address instead of my Google.
I got it.
So 3 of the 10 have been awarded, essentially.
Yes.
And 2
Two are
are
in
in
process.
line waiting, huh?
2 submitted applications that are under review right now.
I think the great thing is once we recommend a site to the Board of Selectmen, I feel like a lot of the requisite work has already been done with regards to the other site. And a lot of it is transferable. I would suspect, certainly, the particulars of the engineering would need to be created, but I mean, a grant application is a grant application with, the foundational elements.
Yes, and I think that at that point, you get into the bidding
Abigail?
regulations.
Absolutely.
And those are touchy and complicated when it comes to municipal bodies. The state has really established a set of regulations for bidding. You can't look out there and say, oh, this firm has done 6 successful dog parks, so we'll take them. You have to go through a quite stringent bidding process to do that. So that will be not our duty, I hope, but and I wouldn't imagine it will fall on the selectmen, but it will fall on the professionals, on the engineers, the animal control officer, and the town manager to make sure that the bidding is done properly as we submit the draft application, and then if we go to the next step, if we are so fortunate as to get chosen to the next step, we'll have to also go through it. And you noted that, or the material they sent us noted that they were interested in having experienced engineers of dog parks. Is that right, Jim?
I don't recall it in that way. I mean, in terms of they're concerned for changing how, instead of having open-ended, keep on pumping the requests into the system. they kind of felt that, you know, if people were going to a certain subset of contractors out there that may have, you know, maybe doing this and have the experience, that when they got to a certain point where their backlog of projects was beginning to increase, that then afforded them the opportunity to potential increase prices to help, you know, make it more lucrative for them. So, in their opinion, by kind of, you know, putting a box around the potential demand, and that allows them to, you know, not give that luxury to potential contractors by, you know, controlling the demand.
Absolutely. I noted when I was going through the Stanton grant that had been awarded, that it really tends to be, as you said, the very same architects and the very
Model.
same firms who are doing the work, which is good in a sense because they have the specialized skill set in this area. But interestingly, I also saw that there are some dog parks that were built in 2014, 2015 that are beginning to be awarded expansion grants through Stanton. In particular, a dog park in Yarmouth that was originally one section. And the expansion is actually to do a small dog section within the footprint of the large dog section. And it's quite a generous allocation. It's maybe $20-ish thousand. So there is funding available
Yes.
if the initial award is successful. So even if we don't get everything we want, there is potential for
But
refurbishment.
I would just caveat that though, you know, if you, I mean, I have this, you know, noted in the deck that I got up here. But basically the way I interpret it is, you know, you get through the design, you get through the construction grants, and then you have what's, you know, referred to as a capital improvement grant.
Indeed.
You know, but at that point, you know, and that's available to you at, you know, 12, 18, and 24-month intervals after the completion of the project. That said, the way I interpret it is only 5% of the high construction costs is what you would be getting from the grant. So that means 95% of anything we do at that point would have to come from other sources. So it's not as
Not as
sexy
plain.
as an offer as the
Right,
first go
right.
around.
Right,
type of
right.
thing.
You want to do
Absolutely.
it as nearly finished as possible the first time.
Because one of the things I also noted to follow up with the point you just raised, Jim, is that there's also a lot of private foundations that are joining the Stanton grant. So in addition to the 501c3, for example, you know, like the Fletcher Society in Worcester, they might, you know, I shouldn't have used their name, that was inappropriate, but I mean, they are a well-funded private fund, you know, through what is the funding agency in Worcester that does all the grants? Mr. Hedden,
Yes.
your family's scholarship is
Yes.
awarded through what agency?
The Greater Worcester Community Foundation.
Thank you so much. That they
A
have,
wealth of knowledge.
that they have private foundations.
It's under wealth.
So that, you know, is another possibility. But baby steps, certainly, you know, one at a time.
Okay. If we've got the subgroups concerns out of the way,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, since we're going to be tossed out of here at 6:45, we should, I suppose, address the pamphlet.
So-
And I have to say, I was very impressed.
Can we
It's
wait
nice.
for Nicole before we do that? She
Gonna
said she'd be
be-
here at 6. So
Again,
can we? Yeah, do you want to do Jim's instead?
Can we pause that, proceed, and come back to that piece?
sure.
Yeah, just because Nicole wrote it, and
Yeah.
I don't have the editable file. I only have the PDF. So if we want to make changes, I can't do it. So we need to wait for Nicole before we work on that.
Okay.
All right, so, what's up on the screen here?
Sorry.
So I took what Elise had sent me and a couple of documents, and then my mind just took off, and I basically put together a presentation that we could, begin to iterate on for the purposes of the town Board of Selectmen meeting.
Is it your dog?
No.
Is it stock dog?
No.
I haven't
Mascot.
adopted a dog like that today.
No,
was so
no,
cute.
I've got I think he's 8-month golden retriever now. So, I guess the kind of way I look at it is you have to tell a little bit of a story here. Not so much that maybe the selectmen is going to be, new news for them, but you can't just, go with the assumption that people that may come into that open meeting, which could be, 0 to 100, who knows, have the same amount of background that we have, or the past people that were there. So there is a few, slides that I think have to kind of set the stage to tell the story as to, what we're doing here. So that's why you'll see a few things here. So if we go to the next slide. Somehow we jumped into a pile. Are you going back?
Oh, I see. The right
There
arrow
it is.
key didn't go to the next slide.
Page down, maybe?
Yeah. I don't know why that didn't work.
Love technology.
Right?
Glad you're doing it.
It's loading. Okay, now present. Yeah. It's something.
It's doing,
Loading.
Trying.
it's being.
Hey.
Got great bandwidth here in the town hall.
Bueller.
There.
Bueller.
Oh, that's slide 3. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so we're going in there with the Auburn Dog Park Committee. Let me just close this. So basically, at the request of the selectmen, this is my understanding, so and we can wordsmith on this as we go, right?
Yeah.
A committee was to be established to find a location for a community dog park. The town held a lottery to fill a 7-person committee. There were about 23 people that signed up for it. Representation from the 5 precincts was more or less determined, and the committee was tasked with identifying possible sites for a dog park, doing a cost analysis, and then making a formal recommendation to the board. That'll sound reasonable in terms of why we came together?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so next slide. Now again, what is a dog park? Yeah, it makes common sense to most people, but I think just a few blurbs on it kind of helps set the stage. It's a park for to exercise and play off leash in a controlled environment under the supervision of owners. And that said, it's not just about the dogs. It's also about people. Opportunity for interactions and things of that sort. Next slide. And
Oh, you added effects.
well, yeah, that's not by design. You can just tab through all that. That's. I was pulling from different sources, so
Right.
there may be some hidden things
Nice.
in this. Okay.
Is that it? Is there more? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
I finished the
Okay.
sentence.
So this can be wordsmith, obviously, but I'm not in love with anything that's worded here. But it's a safe place for dogs. That's legal, right? It's meets the needs of 2,300 plus dog owners that we have here in Auburn. Obviously, there's studies out there that say if your dog socializes and exercises, he makes for a better neighbor. In terms of barks less, more friendlier. I'm not going to read all these things per se, but I think a couple of these are important, right? You look at gives person with limited mobility or the elderly the opportunity to allow their dogs to get exercise or watch dogs at play.
And that's particularly important in the choice of site,
Right.
that it's got to be someplace that is accessible to those
Correct.
kind of dog owners.
Right. Another one I thought was interesting is, it could be a place for animal-related events, demonstrations, and adoptions. I mean, I've seen every so often in town, some sort of a service, I forget what it is, comes rolling in and, you know, they want to offer up dogs for adoptions and things of that sort. And, you know, I personally think, you know, if I'm looking at houses and stuff, I mean, is it the number one thing that I would consider when purchasing a house? No, but if you start listing out potential amenities within the given town, and I saw that one is, I'd put that more in a pro, you know, column as opposed to a past column.
I believe there's data in your
Data
study
in-
that
yes.
says number
Yes,
two.
it's the realtors say, that's the number 2 amenity that
Yeah, after schools.
newcomers look for.
So one thing you can do, you know, I didn't do this per se, but one thing we can do is we iterate on this. I'm a big fan of people have limited attention spans and they don't always want to read too much. So if you prioritize bullets from the standpoint of most value to less value, that's something we might want to consider as we iterate through the deck so that, you know, people's first thing they see is like, oh yeah, that's the good one. So again, we can iterate on this, you know, as a second pass. We can go to the next slide.
I just want, that should be more friendly.
Oh yeah, we can go in.
I tried to fix it, but I couldn't figure it out.
You're gonna take out your red pen
Well,
in
what's
a second,
interesting
aren't you?
I
is-
got it out. I got it out. You always bring
He's
red.
already, she's already
Or take
written
out
it.
more
Look at
done
that.
here.
Look at
I've done it.
Wow. Nicole's gonna have like PTSD there. She's gonna relive some experiences.
Just remove more.
Oh,
It'd
dear.
be good.
I think I'm having PTSD to your classes.
That's what I'm saying. He's got the red pen.
You know what, I can't add it on the slideshow.
Well, we can just
Make
take a
note
note,
of it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it's already in red right here. Or somewhere.
Alright, perfect. All right, let's go to the next slide. So, there might be my slide looks fine, if we go back to the selection process. So I think it's, you know, to give people some context of what we did that may not necessarily be the same of what the town did previously, you know, kind of, you know, we didn't just do this, you know, in 10 minutes. You know, there's a little bit of science behind it, right? So, you know,
Due diligence.
exactly.
Right.
So again, wordsmithing is I'm open to anything. You know, we reviewed a list that I looked at the list. I think about 25, you know, plus parcels was the initial thing we looked at. We refined it downward, you know, before we went out and started looking at stuff based on Stanton Foundation and committee selected criteria. You know, some of those things like water accessibility, paving, and shade. We assigned parcels to committees for on-site visits. We then, you know, talked about the findings in terms of benefits and challenges at committee meetings. You know, based on the criteria and the site findings, Lemansky Park was determined to be the best possible option for the location of a dog park in Auburn. At least I'd ask you to take a good look at the next bullet that you really can't see because of how this is coming together on the screen, but I'll read it to you.
Please.
Select committee meeting members met with Auburn Town engineers. Feedback provided by engineers further indicated Lemansky Park was a reasonable candidate for a dog park location. I didn't want to make it too strong. It wasn't really like, if, you know, Bill Coy wasn't saying, yeah, that's a good one. So I wasn't there, I didn't know, you know, I thought that was kind of, you know,
I'd crank it up a bit.
okay, so.
His language, I would put in the category of moderately confident about the validity of the site.
Okay.
Would you, is that a fair statement?
Absolutely.
I would.
And I think we need a picture of Annie in here, but that's just.
I was actually going to suggest removing the picture just in case we have this issue going forward.
We can play around with it or kill it. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter to me. I don't know. I mean, I guess one thing we might want to do is whenever we go to the town hall, we might want to just do a preview because I can't. Is it apples to apples in terms of audio video in this room versus that room in terms of equipment and stuff, or is there some differences?
You have three video screens here, and that will be just one.
Is it the same aspect ratio, the same size TV or no?
Not really.
So
Well, then I
if
would
the
take it
out
selectmen
just
are
in case.
sitting at their table, how do
There's
they see it?
PowerPoint, then no PowerPoint.
They can see the screen from their table.
Yeah.
And the advantage, I think, is that the audience for the public presentation
Yeah, I can
is
see
spread
it
out
clearly,
enough so
yeah.
that they,
Also say.
Right.
so there's only one screen, but they get.
So I would say, you know, let's when we want to try to do a dry run in there, you know, take us 10 seconds to go
Yeah.
ahead and do
Yeah,
it before we do
sure.
it, type of thing. All right, so the next slide, if we can get a better image of this, we can. Basically, what I did to do this, I basically took a photo of the printout that was provided last week, and then put it in there. So I know we can get this image to look a lot cleaner by just going back out there and maybe just, do an image capture off of that.
Off of it,
Um,
sending it to you.
Yeah, so that's an easy one there. Okay, so the next one gets into benefits, and this is mostly what Elise put together with a few ads by me and maybe some light wordsmithing in some places. So, preliminary site analysis meets Stanton Foundation grant requirements. Presently maintained by DPW, availability of 30,000 square feet, allowing for latitude and design specifications. And then I put a sub-bullet to that, opportunity to have 20,000 square feet section for larger dogs and 10,000 for smaller dogs. Located within a recreational complex, not a residential neighborhood. Minimal disruption to neighborhood anticipated. No significant increase in traffic forecasted. But is not within direct line of sight of proposed site. I'm sure we could change that. Should be probably SIGHT.
Yes.
That's my typo, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Spell check wouldn't have caught it because it is the correct spelling, is not used the right way. Availability of access road and parking lot reduces overall total project costs. Environmental benefits, grading is fairly level, good gravity for drainage. We got an ADA compliant, endorsed by the Auburn Police Department. Fur Friends endorses the site, which I just noted it's important because they're committed to provide 10% of construction costs and future maintenance costs.
And just to follow up, Jim, I did speak with Nancy, and she does approve of use of the word endorse. I just didn't know how strong she wanted to go with the language, and she said endorse.
Okay.
All right.
So next slide is site challenges. Logistics and associated costs of relocating skate park to another section of Lemansky Park. Relocation costs would include excavation, transportation, fencing, and hardscape costs. Additional analysis would be needed during formal design phase. So I mean, I don't think any of us can really put a number on that, even though I think Bill may have thrown a number out there during the meeting. But until you actually get in there and you start putting some measurements to it, I think it's just a big swag that could excite people or scare people.
Yeah.
So I don't think going there makes a lot of sense. I also threw this one out there. They may experiencing downtime and availability to the community. Amount of downtime to be determined during construction planning phase. Until they know the moving parts, they can't really say it's going to be a week or a month or anything in between.
He said a fair statement would be 4 to 6 weeks. However, should the stars align, it could be significantly shorter. And he also did throw out a number, and the only reason he did that was because he anticipated that the selectmen might press us for a number. Not with regards to our project, interestingly, but with regards to this, because it is not part of the grant.
Right. So
I would suggest changing that to about 4 to 6 weeks.
okay. So let's do this. Let's hold what we want to do for edits. There's only a couple more slides.
Yeah.
Then we can go back and I can change views on my screen to
Yeah.
edit mode as
That's
opposed
fine.
to presentation that I'm looking at here. So I don't know if anybody else has any specific site challenges that you want to call out that you think are relevant here.
What about, they said that they were gonna have to rip up the parking lot.
Yep. And add-
What,
add
going
water.
back to the water issue, now that we know
Right.
that we need to have it in there, does that jog anything in terms of a potential gotcha that they were concerned about?
Not at all.
No,
not
I
at
don't
all.
think so. I think from the very beginning that has always been pretty well determined to be a challenge that had to be settled.
Okay.
And,
So that would
and
be
we,
my,
we,
that would be my other concern would be just, the parking lot construction.
and we had
Because of the
discussed
water
that in greater detail when we met last week. They already do have sewer lines that run right under the existing parking lot. So for them to run a connection from the existing skate park to the existing sewer line and then to run a water line is not a big deal at all.
Okay.
And they said they wanted to redo the parking lot anyway.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Right, I just want to make sure we're thinking about
Yeah.
that, because we're thinking about, deconstructing the skate park. I want to make sure we're
Right.
thinking about the parking lot as well.
Yeah.
And
Because that's going to be inconvenience to the people that want to go to the top lot,
Playground, yeah.
the playground.
the dismantling of the skate park and the proposed additional square footage of the dog park would take up about, I believe it's 5 or 6 existing parking spots.
Right, we saw that.
Excellent.
And
Which isn't that many.
with the size of that parking lot, it's not gonna be a big deal.
No.
Right.
There were no concerns with regards to overflow parking. They said, in fact, they cannot think of a time besides planned events like the Walk for Life,
Right.
when it is jam-packed, in which case Amy Contois could exert her authority and close the park. Do we need
We
to?
also have parking at the Horgan Arena, which is
Correct.
right here,
Yep.
because everybody that parks where the basketball arena, the
Yeah.
basketball courts are,
Yes.
they all park down that one side and on that edge too, so that's a pretty large parking lot itself up there.
You'd have to have a
So-
hockey event going
Yeah,
on,
you'd
a
have to have
baseball
every
game,
single thing.
soccer going on,
And
like
the
in the
arena
lower
is
fields,
closed.
something
And the
going
Are
on
you
inside
trying
the
to set the
track.
winds so that happens,
Yeah, I mean,
Jim? Is that what
no,
that is?
it just doesn't happen. I mean, I've been there tons of time with my kids.
doesn't
so
happen
I've
until
never
the
Horgan
seen
Arena
it.
is only open in the winter anyway.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, it's open in the summer too.
You said
There's-
hold it.
there's
no
so I'm
skating?
holding.
No.
They shut down the end of April.
Yeah.
Okay.
They can't, they don't keep it cool.
No summer skating.
It's expensive.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, I'm sure. But what I'm saying is we have that extra parking, so we can kind of say, you know, while this parking lot is down, you have that, and really the access is pretty easy.
Yeah.
You know, you
Okay.
just don't have the handicapped access at that point.
Yeah.
For the downtime.
All right, so from here, we kind of we can go back and add challenges if we want, but from here, we now kind of translate into, what is this going to cost? And I think it's important that you do call out, because not everybody's not going to have the intimacy understanding of the Stanton grant, right? So you got to kind of, provide a little bit of color commentary on that. So that's what this is, design grants, they range from 10 to 20, and some of this information ties in good with the information that Elise provided on the next slide. So it kind of like, okay, this is what it costs, and now you see some real costs, and then you're going to say, all right, well, you're not too far off from here. There's some continuity and association there.
And also with regards to data trends, this is almost like a
Exactly.
foreshadowing.
Right.
You got it.
Nice.
You got it. Sell before the hook. So construction grant, all this stuff, all of us are pretty familiar. Now, the remaining upfront costs and maintenance will be taken care of as follows. And this is where, whoever's, the fur friend liaison, make sure we're not putting anything in here that's going to get us into trouble. Committed to raising the remaining 10% construction costs balance and annual maintenance costs. Now, I did flip an email over to Amy this year because I wasn't sure, because if you remember when the first packet we got, there was a little blurb around what the maintenance costs were. This is like $3 to $5 grand
Yeah.
type of thing. So my question to her was, or to Julie, was, even though DPW is doing this at Lemansky, and even though that somebody's taking care of this space already, should we put in an amount, either increase, decrease, adjust it, whatever? And her response was, we should keep it in there. As a 3 to 5K. There's a few caveats which I didn't think we needed to call out here yet. I mean, because I see this is preliminary at this point. One of those caveats could be the cost could potentially increase based on the surface choice that was given.
Mowing grass.
Yes.
Right.
Etc.
Right. The next line here, and some of this I stole from this.
Right,
Some of these
right.
these benefits, and some of you might have picked up on that already. This next bullet here is, do we know, I'm assuming we want to do a user free, but do we know for sure that that would go to maintenance costs? Or we just go?
What's that?
This, where it says, those who wish to use the park will pay a yearly user fee. These funds will be allocated directly to maintenance costs.
I need to pause with that.
Maybe just,
Is that on this sheet here?
It's on this sheet here too, yeah.
did she say exactly that?
Just about that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
My understanding is, and this is based on a conversation, that the town can't charge residents for use of
No.
facilities. Can you speak more to this?
Yes, there has always been concern over public facilities and cost to use them. For a long time, there was concern over Memorial Field, which was built before the high school was built, and whether or not events going on there could be charged for. And it was never really determined, so I'm not so sure that there can be a charge for that.
Well, can you tell me again what our registrations are going to?
Wouldn't it go through?
What are the dog registrations going to correctly
I
to
don't know,
right
do
now?
they pay for Amy and?
Well,
any-
that's
Yeah.
what I
those
wondered,
types of-
that, you know,
They do.
could they be
Okay.
used for
I asked
something
that
like
at the
that?
training. They paid for.
So
they
would
go to general fund, they
registration
pay her.
be increased?
But
Don't know. So because you don't know if the person's going to use the dog park. or
And
not,
I
so you can't
changed
really
one
charge
word
them.
in that statement. He is saying, those who wish to use the park will be asked to pay a yearly.
and wouldn't it be
Why don't
to
we-
the fur friends who in turn would give it to the
That might
town?
be,
Why
Deposit it to the town?
don't we say may be asked to pay a yearly fee? So that way,
Well, what I would say at this point is,
covered.
we probably may want to be reach out to Julie or the town office and just kind of get a little bit more
More
specifics
information.
on some of this stuff.
yeah.
Because I have to, what I can tell you is, well, I don't know if this is the best example, because I mean, I did pay $15 to use the field at Tufts in Grafton, but I'm guessing that land is probably owned by Tufts University,
Yes.
which
Right,
then allows
right.
them to go ahead and do
Mhm.
that.
I
That
spoke
said,
with someone because
Right.
I did the
Yeah.
same thing, Jim.
Right.
citizens being charged to use the town-owned dog park is not an unusual occurrence.
And I don't think that, I don't, if someone says, Jim, you're gonna pay $10, $20, I'm not gonna, I mean, personally, I'm not gonna lose sleep over
I'm
that,
not
so.
either. It's not, yeah, I'm just saying that, I'm not quite sure what the specific bylaws of Auburn are, but in general, it's not an unusual occurrence for towns to ask for that.
Oh, I completely agree
Right.
with what you're saying. I just think, as you said, one of us, that means
Well,
you,
yes, yes, yes.
needs to figure out the flow, follow the
If we
money.
can,
What's the box? What's the box currently as it stands today, and then
Yeah.
from there, we'll be able to determine how we can interact with the box. Right? Again, this is coming from your flyer there, 25,000, from dog license fees. And then this is what I just called out earlier in the year, because I think it's important for everybody to see, in order to try to, put that sense of urgency out there. They got 7 available, 2 in process under review. Okay? So the next one is just, the data that Elise had put together, and there's 2 slides on this, because you may be thinking, wait a second, I have some columns missing, but I kind of did it, all the data is there, but I kind of put a little twist to it. This basically was what she pulled out there. When I thought, I put an average of what the other towns were, and then I put kind of, what we can tell at this point for Auburn, in that last item. Population 16,200, we're thinking 30,000. We don't know what the total cost is going to be of the square foot. We're not there yet. And then, I got a couple of notes down the bottom that basically, speak to the asterisks that are above. Make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. The next one is kind of what I call comparative dog park features, right? So this is where, and I thought this was good data because I don't recall that we talked about it, but maybe we did. But the other way I thought it was good is just calling out the location of dog parks that are associated with existing recreational complexes, which is more or less what we're doing. So,
I found it fascinating that Stanton favored parks in recreational complexes.
Interesting.
And I said, we are on to something. So it was just amazing. I'm sitting here and I'm like, this makes sense.
right. So, and then the next one is non-profit stakeholder involvement, which is like Fur Friends, which is again, it's not an uncommon trend based on the data we have here. And then again, compare it against the last line, Auburn. Yes, yes, yes. And then, these were miscellaneous, features that Elise had captured per each community dog park. I don't know if we want to throw a few in on ours, and I just left it as TBD for now. We can, figure it out later type of thing. No, any other questions on that one?
What is a timeout area?
It's our hyper-stimulated dogs.
That's awesome.
Just want to know what it looks like.
Is it like a penalty box or a crate?
Great.
You know, they used the
Put 'em in
word
a
penalty box, and I said, that's punitive. We can't say that.
Okay.
All right.
So that's the last slide. Now, here's just a piece for discussion that I threw out there, right? And this is, we don't necessarily have to show this, but I kind of feel like, you know, if you have somebody in the audience who may have concerns about risks associated with a dog park, it's better to have some preparation around potential
Right.
answers as opposed to, well, that's a good question, let me get back to you, you know? So this is just some data that I compiled. We can, you know, we don't have to finalize this right now, and we can decide if we want to show it or not, but I just put it as a back of the deck appendix slide. You know, non-compliance of dog park rules, right? We're never going to be able to enforce that 100% because you're not going to have somebody sitting there at the dog park 24/7, and the likelihood that, you know, maybe we could put a webcam high up in the air and someone's going to monitor that. I don't know, but you know, some things we can do to kind of mitigate that risk is, you know, public meetings to educate the public on, you know, how to be a responsible pet owner, to answer questions about the dog park. We can provide dog park information through, you know, newsletters, you know, or in local TV, you know, a 10-minute infomercial type of thing we can put there.
That's I like the public meeting, and I think that that's also something that the Fur Friends can also do about creating not documentation.
Right. Dog bites and injuries, obviously, you know, going to be up there. You know, Massachusetts is referred to as a strict liability dog bite state, which basically means you're liable if your dog bites or causes an injury. So it's not something that the town could deal with in terms of liability, is the way that I understand it. You know, and then there's some other things, you know, usage of waivers, permits, and posted rules, regulations, you know, can aid, you know, in lessening, you know, certain liabilities. Noise level, I mean, this is just, I guess, I don't know, this is more of a common sense, you know, not necessarily science behind it, more or less saying, you know, Lemanski Park is already a recreation area that has rules and hours of operations. Noise level from a dog park would be no different than cheering crowd noise that occurs during sporting events.
Yeah.
Right? This is something I threw out there, you know, people might, you know, people who, it could be germophobias, you know, transferring of, you know, dog health issues, right? You know, most, you know, any kennel that I've, you know, the few that I've used, you know, require like a kennel cough type of a thing, right? You know, in order to get an application to the park, you know, would you have to submit some sort of veterinarian records that says, all right, you got a rabies shot and whatever else potentially could be there.
And part of the education around being a responsible dog owner in a dog park is make sure your dog has flea treatments and wipe their paws before you bring them home and things like that, so that to prevent transfer of disease.
You know, parking and traffic control, I don't sense it's an issue, you know, type of thing. You know, maintenance and dog waste, you know, posted rules will indicate it is the responsibility of the dog owner to clean up their dog's waste. DPW will maintain the dog park to keep the surface in shape. You know, we'll clean dog waste and empty trash cans regularly. We'll fill holes and have dog waste bag available. Now, I kind of stole that from a location, so we may want to just kind of verify that that's not over, you know.
And it's in the town bylaws that you have to clean up after your dog. You'll get fined if you don't. And I think that needs to be in there, that it's against the law to not clean up after
Yeah.
your dog.
Yeah, I'm sure that we're gonna have signage
Yeah.
up around there just stating that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I also believe there was an articulated commitment from Fur Friends to provide the receptacles.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So not DPW.
So that's kind of.
Well, I think that will be a shared duty. I think that the bags and maybe even the receptacles will be supplied by Fur Friends. They're emptied regularly by the DPW. DPW truck goes around emptying those
Right.
trash buckets and.
But again, for the folks who are mindful of cost, just to know that it's not
Already covered.
public money.
All right, so that's it. That's the last one. Thoughts on how we should handle that slide? I mean, obviously we can wordsmith. I mean, everything I showed you, we can do some wordsmithing. So, but in terms of, you know, something we want to throw out there, something we want to just have to our disposal. If somebody says, well, you know, what about this, and I'm concerned about this, and then we can say, okay, well, those are great questions. here's our ideas. I think.
It's a good to have.
I mean, I don't think we're empowered to make, at all these, these are guarantees. What we can, pitch it as, these are suggestions that we would pass along to the town, and it would be the town's responsibility to evaluate, what makes sense here, what's doable, and, if they've got concerns or additional ideas to add. I mean, that's my take on it.
And I think some data that could be synthesized would be some of the facts that you had
Yep.
extracted from the study.
Right.
Because again, the more the researcher in me feels like the more sources we cite increases our
Absolutely
not our
agree.
authority, but our credibility.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That it just, if we don't use the AKC, but we use validated research.
Sure. Yeah.
So a couple of questions, right? So does the flow seem reasonable in terms of what, we got to tell a little bit of a story of,
Yeah.
how we came about. We then flip into kind of, the site location. We then get into costs. I mean, to me, outside of doing some wordsmithing, potentially, going out and getting some additional data sources that we could highlight, as kind of, bringing more substance and power to the data, or some of the statements that we're calling out, absolutely, can be done.
Just, I know you had an appendix slide, just make sure you cite your sources, that's all.
Yeah.
I forget the proper way to do that
Thanks.
now, it's been a long time.
It came out really nice. Thanks, Elise. Thanks, Howard. Thanks, Jim.
Do we as a group feel like the environmental benefits of this site need to be enumerated?
How do you mean?
They had talked about that this site was less impervious and that we would not be clearing trees
Right.
like we would be at other sites. In fact,
So-
we would be contributing trees, shrubs, bushes, etc., etc.
In that case, would you do it from a standpoint of, we are gonna have a dog park no matter what, this site is better than this site for environmental reasons, or it's either this site or no site, and this is why it's better for environmental reasons. Does that make sense?
It does, and I
Yeah.
would go with the former.
Right. And that's, just make sure that, because otherwise people will be saying, well, construction is never good for the environment. So-
Absolutely.
Right.
But I just think, if we were to look at our contingency site, a Boyce.
Yeah, right.
And they're talking about clearing,
Lots of trees,
yeah,
a grove.
because Mr. Coyle had said that the town actually has to submit reports each year that talk about what environmental steps the town is taking. So, just something that I was thinking about Howard from the meeting we sat in on. I don't know if you recall that, when he was talking about how they have to talk about environmental benefits.
Well, we were comparing the two sites, Lemansky and the
Voice.
Boyd Street. And just from a financial standpoint, never mind environmentally, it just made much more sense to go with Lemansky. It was much less, it's going to be
Removal
much less
excavation.
invasive
Mhm.
on everything, from knocking down trees and whatnot, so it was a no-brainer as far as I was concerned.
I would concur with that, but it's good to hear your perspective, because at the last meeting, I was sitting here talking, and I could have been, coming up with fake news based on, the meeting. So that said, it's good to hear you corroborate my assertions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the environmental are two-sided, as you say. There are environmental effects of using this particular site, but there is also the general effect of having a dog park and getting dogs, not all of them, because you never will, but getting a number of dogs off town streets.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Now they walk there. They're in all other parks. They're in parks where they're not, and I don't know how to say this as
They're not supposed
pleasingly
to.
as I want it. There is a certain peer pressure about cleaning up after your dog
Yeah.
that's not present when some less responsible dog owners walk their dogs
Yep.
on any of our
If no
fields,
one's-
and they do.
If
go
no
on
one's
all the
watching,
same
they're not
field.
gonna do it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So enforcing pro-social norms. How's that?
It is, that's good. Might go over head, so we have to be careful.
Sorry.
Remember, we're talking to the 5 selectmen.
Okay, you
Who
said
I
that
know.
not for the record.
So,
I'm old
to be
enough to be
clear.
able to say that.
Jen, you have the notes that the comments that we mentioned, so you can make the edits.
No,
I do.
Watch the video.
no, when you watch it, here's what I would say, right, or suggest, right? So it's 5:50, we've got a limited amount of time, we get something
Yeah, we
else
still have to
here,
go to
right?
the minute.
Are we still having a planning on, because here's my thoughts, right? We're about, unless someone feels differently, we're about 85 to 90% done with what we can
Yep.
put in front of the thing. We got some wordsmithing
Yeah.
and a few follow-up points,
Right.
you know, to make sure we get some specific, that we're not calling something it's not. If this is, more or less can get signed, I think this is important to get signed off because this, to me, is something that needs to be executed in advance of the selectmen meeting, right?
Yep.
So if we've got the remaining time to 6:45, I'd say that we try to finalize this first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, if we're still gonna meet next week, then to me, we finalize this
This
deck
day.
next week.
Yep.
And then it's about, or we could probably do it now, maybe the other thing, that you consider talking to them about is getting us on the calendar. Because at this point, if we have this thing to go, and we know when we're gonna launch it, and we know when we're gonna try to schedule public meetings, well, then we can then figure out from there logically when we can schedule, we could try to get scheduled on the Board of Selectmen meeting. I'm thinking, we don't have much more to do here.
Nope.
Is that reasonable? I mean, are we still all planning to meet next week? 'Cause the-
Well, I had that as a question to ask you. We are not scheduled to meet again
Right.
until the 5th. Initially, we were scheduled for the first and
Oh, the
third
third, yeah.
Wednesdays.
Right.
This month, there are 5 Wednesdays. So we're meeting on the 4th because we felt we needed to.
Yeah.
And the 5th is next Wednesday. We're not scheduled. I don't know if this room and the selectmen's room are scheduled for use those days, but you can see from tonight that sometimes this is a problem. Our next scheduled days are the 5th and the 19th. That's first and third.
Next Wednesday, the 29th,
Yeah.
planning board in the selectmen's room, planning board in this room.
This room.
Finance in the selectmen's room.
I'm sorry, what are the selectmen dates again?
Not selectmen, it's finance in the selectmen's room, next Wednesday.
Would you be able to tell us what the dates in April are for the selectmen meetings?
They don't publish that ahead of time.
It's the second
It
one?
just got till March.
It's a second,
Second and fourth.
second and fourth
We
Monday.
just had a selectmen this
Thank
week,
you.
so it'll be.
So I would say this, right? If we're saying that we're forecasting that the Board of Selectmen meetings would be the 10th and the 24th of April, which is the second and fourth Monday of April, then I mean, again, I'm not seeing that, again, if you guys feel differently, chime up here. I'm not seeing, if we were to meet on the 5th, which is our regularly scheduled, programming time, and go through this deck one more time and make iterations, as we're, right then and there, then we're done.
We're done.
And at that point, if we're able to have the public meetings, before or during, I don't think it works either way.
Right.
But we still, then at that point, we could potentially jump in on the 10th or we jump on the 24th, depending on what we're able to give us.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a
I agree.
big believer in having a backup plan. That I like that flow, but inevitably something is going to go wrong and something is not going to come together. I'm not being a pessimist, I feel like I'm being a realist.
So to that point,
perhaps we might want to consider a basement meeting room for next week. I know you don't
I was
like
gonna go with the
theater.
basement.
No,
I pressed
I
the
like
basement
the
so much
basement.
last
I
week.
wanted to send you to the basement. Um,
So
It
really,
was
you don't think you
suggested
in an hour
very
can get rid of
strongly
people
to
for
me
these done?
that our
think it's an
meeting
hour
should
less
be
than
no-brainer.
this.
where
Sorry,
it can
I
be
can't focus.
televised.
It should be where we can be televised.
Yeah, so that it, yes, it is either appears live on television or it appears taped on television, but at least it is on television. So that's why we're not meeting in the basement tonight.
Why don't we see how far we get
I
tonight?
was gonna say,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
stop talking
And
Let
about
me
that and get on
ask
it.
a question of you, because I wasn't certain about this. Are we going to invite specific people based on where they live? In other words, are we inviting some abutters
So I think
specifically?
the plan was to mail the abutters and invite everyone via the internet.
Okay,
And
is
also
this,
buy flyers and things
are
like
we gonna send this to the abutters
well, after we decide
with the
on.
right date?
After,
whatever the
with the right
date
date, and after we decide, exactly what's on here that we're gonna send.
Because we'd also need to write a letter to
Yeah.
them
Yes.
and decide what distance
Yeah.
of butters we want to contact.
Yeah.
Because there's none in the line of sight, which is a
No.
good thing.
Right.
But there are some within 250 or
Yes.
500 feet. So how far out do we want to go to make all those decisions?
Mr. Chair, Mark Benoit, I think if we do this public hearing stuff, if you...
It's not a hearing, we don't use our words.
That's what I think
Marcus.
of. Well, we help meet, I guess.
Yeah,
See, we book the high school, because you have a full house. You never know. For the auditorium, maybe.
That is an interesting possibility.
Yeah, another thing too, what's this all gonna cost? You know,
well, we've got the figures.
yeah.
We can show you the figures.
Tell me.
Sometime. It's not gonna cost us
Well, tell
very
me.
much
Yeah.
because we're dependent upon obtaining a Stanton grant, which pays 90% of the construction costs. And we have been promised by the Auburn Fur Friends to meet the other 10%. So actually the cost will be, the direct cost, the immediate cost will be small. The area at Lemansky is at least partially maintained now. The parking lot's maintained now. The parking lot is scheduled to be redone. The grass through the whole of Lemansky is cut by our maintenance people, by the DPW. The rubbish is picked up by the DPW. So these, while they cost something, are not going to be additional costs.
What happens if the fur friends don't come in with the money? Do we
Well,
actually need this? Because other places have, like Worcester
Yeah.
has Millbury, has dog parks.
Mhm. Almost anybody who's asked for a dog park
There's a lot of people
out
out
of
there
the
don't.
Stanton Foundation has received a grant.
Yeah. There's some people out there that don't want it too. That's the only other thing.
Hmm.
And when you're talking the ADA, you gotta have the parking spaces with handicap. It depends on how many parking spaces you have. You have to have the ADA spots on the whole site.
Yes.
Okay, the advanced
Yeah.
spots too. Okay, thank you.
And we intend that as far as this committee is concerned, we intend for a park that meets all existing town bylaws.
Okay.
So we know that, there are ADA requirements, we know that there are parking requirements.
And the foundation won't even
They
grant
won't
a
even
grant
grant
Without
Without
ADA
it.
compliance.
Yeah. So it's a case where we'll have many people looking over, not our shoulders, because our job will be done, we think, when we make the recommendation of the location. But there
But we
will
are-
be people supervising both the immediate construction and the permanent operation of Mrs. Dog.
I mean, I kind of think at this point, right, we don't have exact numbers, right? So you can't sit here with any good intention and say it's going to cost exactly this. I think at this point the objective is, okay, do we think Lemansky has enough of what we're looking for and is within the ballpark and is not going to have strong opposition from many people to at least go to the next stage, which to me is let's evaluate and get through the design process, and then, I don't know if the Board of Selectmen can go up and say something like this, but let's get to the next point, let's get those hard numbers, and then let's come back and make a final decision before we go ahead and process a grant with,
And that's not up to us.
and that's not up to us, but that to me would be a happy medium,
Right.
it's like, okay, you don't have to say this is a done deal today, all we're saying is, okay, this makes sense to pursue to the next step and do additional due diligence to then vet out what this really is gonna cost. At that point, they can come in and revisit it with, within the next meeting or whatever, how long it takes, and at that point, then the thumbs up or thumbs down comes in, because now we have real numbers.
All right, can we go over the
Yep,
fire?
sure.
Because we don't have a lot of time. So, I love everything that's in here.
Yes,
That-
there's
That
open-ended
said
still.
that there's I think there's too much in here.
Okay.
If we're going to be following our plan to be posting it in pet stores and veterinary vets offices and things like that, I think we should get it down to one page. I know there's a lot in here.
Well, it's everything that we wanted to have on it. That's
Yeah.
the only thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how we could possibly get it on one page.
And I'm
It's gonna be
concerned
on one
that,
page, let's do double-sided.
and I'm
Well, that's
concerned
right,
that
yeah.
Yeah.
are people even going to want to read this much? That's the
Well,
other
some-
concern I
Some
have.
will and some will
It's more.
not.
It's less
Yeah.
about what people want to read and more about covering
The information.
the information
The
and
information
putting
that they
questions
feel
in
they
a
need.
quick. Like if they don't want to read that PowerPoint from beginning to end because it's filled with information,
Then this
people
covers
who
a
have
lot of it.
concerns, this is directly addressing that.
Right.
So I feel like, I feel like there might be something missing on here,
Yeah,
but
right.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I think is good about that is just kind of the layout. So,
Yeah.
you can kind of gravitate based on the headlines where you may
What you-
choose to
what
Yes.
go down
Yes.
versus
Right.
not go
Yep.
down. Now,
Right.
All right.
So before we get tied up with like how much, let's see what information is there,
Sure.
and let's
Okay.
vote on whether or not it's
All right.
good stuff or
Title: Auburn Dog Park FAQ. Sound good?
Yes.
Yep.
pass.
Check.
That was easy.
All right. First, what is this going to cost me? Exclamation point, question mark.
I think that's a huge one to have up front.
First, right up
Yep,
front.
right up
Yep.
front.
So this project is only possible because of a grant called the Stanton Grant. This grant will cover all design costs as well as 90% of the construction costs. The remaining upfront costs and maintenance will be taken care of as follows. A nonprofit Fur Friends of Auburn group has committed to raising a 10% balance. The DPW already maintains the properties being considered. Should we switch that to Lemansky? Or
Yes.
should
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Lemansky Park. Those who wish to use the park will be used.
We'll be asked.
Will be asked. I don't know how that happened. Sorry. Asked to pay a yearly user fee. I was thinking ahead of myself. These funds will be
That's the
allocated
one that
directly
we
to
said
maintenance costs.
Immediately that we would have to
We
check
have to check.
Right.
with the,
To
whether
double
or
check
not-
with Julie. I believe that's what she said.
Yeah.
That. So if anything, Auburn DPW is going to be seeing an increase in money because they already maintain the lot. And so now we're going to be collecting $10 a dog or $15 a dog, and now we're bringing money into the town actually.
And that's-
So that's something that Julie did mention. So we can verify that obviously, but I'm pretty confident that's what
That is
she said it would
right.
go. Yeah.
The only thing I'd comment out there that could be misleading is, and this was what I was thinking up until what I heard from the dog officer, is they already maintain the properties being considered. Now that's true from the standpoint of, that's what they do today, but
Right.
there is a cost still associated with it in terms of the annual maintenance, which needs,
Right.
that would
Yeah.
come through the Fur Friends, and I don't know if that's something we need to be a little bit more specific about in the context of this. I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, that's something that I put in the who's gonna clean up, because that addresses like Fur Friends has offered to do a weekly, at minimum, cleanup and like to go and check.
Also, they stop by my house too.
Yeah, right. So that is something that is in that area.
Can I throw out an idea?
Yeah, of course.
You know how when we went through the, oh, you were here. When
Yes,
we went through
sorry.
the PowerPoint, the first run, we
Yeah.
just listened. And then we went back and did edits.
Okay.
So just because of time,
Oh.
can we?
Sure. Yep.
And that way we can focus.
You got it.
Okay.
All right. And then the dog license fees, I think. Was one.
Because I think the flyer's awesome and I just want to hear it.
Yeah. I put 25,000 because I know it's at least 25,000. It may be more than that, but I figured that's safe.
The only thing I would say to that is if that money is already utilized and going to existing things, AKA the dog officer or some other things, then that has no relevance,
Then why list
you know,
it?
in this thing. And that's something, I guess, you know, when you ask those questions, Chairman, that we can get a little bit of visibility. If that's money that we can use and it's there, then it's worth putting there. If it's money that's not helping us,
I think
it's a bullet we remove.
yes, although I think that that's a question that's going to come up. Well, I'm already paying for my dog every year. What is that money going for? You know what I mean?
Should I don't know, I don't want to comment.
No, go ahead, no, I'm.
No, the only reason I included it, and I'm fine with taking it out, like I agree, I understand what you're saying. The only reason I included it because I know that the cost is a big concern for people. However, we need to remember that the people that want this are also taxpayers.
Right.
And they also are already paying and contributing to the budget. So dogs alone contribute to the animal control officer, which doesn't just take care of dogs. When there's a bear in your backyard or when there's a coyote that's got rabies, she takes care of it. So it's really the dogs are contributing to the overall town budget. So by saying that, I'm just kind of saying, well, yeah, I get it. We don't want our taxes to go up either. But remember that having a dog alone contributes to the overall town budget. So it's only fair for them to have a free place to go play in town,
Right.
if that makes sense. So that's why I
That
included
makes
it.
perfect
Yeah.
sense
Which you're
to a
charging
grouchy
anyway. for.
person like me who would say, there are gonna be
Yeah.
people out there that say to
Yes.
themselves and to us, why should I pay anything for a dog? I don't own a
You
dog.
shouldn't, and you
Because
don't.
dog people contribute 25,000.
I don't anymore own kids,
Right.
Yeah.
but I
Yes.
pay to the schools.
I don't have kids.
I don't have kids,
Yep.
and I pay for your maintenance
Exactly.
of Little League fields
Yes.
and youth football fields
And just
and
for the
soccer
just for the
fields.
record, do we charge everybody's kid $10?
No.
I don't think
No.
we should be charging a dog park fee, but we're
Yeah.
proposing that
Fair
anyway.
enough. Yep.
You know, I don't have any children,
Right.
but I have dogs, so you know, the argument's on both sides.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But that's
On
why I
both sides.
included it. I'm like, okay with taking it out, but I just wanted to
I would
explain.
say this, let's get more information on what the fees are, how much the fees are, and how the fees are allocated, right? Then we can come back and make
Sure.
what the best decision is because we're basing it on data.
Yep, you got it.
All right.
Okay, cleanup. While we certainly can't ensure that all people will be responsible and pick up after their pets, just like we can't ensure that people won't throw trash out of their windows when they're driving down the street, it's no different. Here are a few ways that having a dog park will actually be a benefit in this area for the town. Having a designated area, not R,
Yeah.
area for dogs to roam freely will decrease waste in other public areas, or potentially, maybe I should put potentially decrease. It's not a guarantee, but
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah.
People who will frequent the park are more apt to pick up after their pet because they don't want to come back and deal with it. Pet cleanup stations will be readily available at the park and will be replenished by the Auburn Fur Friends, who have confirmed that. Auburn Fur Friends is also committed to weekly cleanups where they will go pick up after owners who are irresponsible, and they also said even checking the fences and making sure
Right,
that they're
safety.
sturdy and safety issues and whatnot. So that's something that they communicated with me. They were committed to doing weekly.
That's awesome.
Littering and not picking up after your pet are both against the law, period. We can't force people to always follow the law in any area, in any type of life. But anyone caught doing this may be fined accordingly, just like anything else. We can't force people to follow the law, but it is the law, so if they are caught doing so there are consequences.
Yep.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think that your choice of language is just assertive enough
Yeah.
without being regulatory
Or sassy.
and dangerous.
It'd be better if she'd done it
Still
standard.
sassy.
Just a little bit, just a little bit. Any other on that?
I like it.
It's great.
No,
Okay.
I like, yeah.
What about all the noise? With a little woof woof on the side. One of the largest concerns neighbors have is the noise they believe the dog park will cause. While we can't expect dogs to be silent, interestingly enough, dogs are less likely to bark at each other in a dog park during play. Well-exercised and socialized dogs are less likely to bark while in their homes, as we all know this of dog owners. During peak hours, research of surrounding towns' dog parks from the original research that I had done estimated that no more than 10 to 15 dogs would be in the area at once, and that's on the most beautiful days in the summer on a weekend.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're looking at 1, 2, maybe 3 dogs at a time, or none at all. With plenty of space to keep them separated when you have 30,000 square feet that you're looking at.
Sure.
Dog park hours will be set by the town. if Lemansky is chosen, so I can
Yeah.
just rewrote
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Lemansky already has existing park hours, which will be followed. In addition, I don't know, but they could also create new laws just for the dog park alone to be maybe a later start than dawn, or, I don't really know, but there is already park hours in place for Lemansky at least.
Right.
So no one's going to be using the park at 11 o'clock at night, and if they are, they're trespassing. So
Right.
it's pretty straightforward.
I think this is great, but I
Yep.
feel like a couple of sources need
Okay.
to be cited.
Sure,
You know,
Did you see the study?
I did, yes.
Yeah, and I pulled out specific things for this use
Okay, perfect.
in one file in the drive. So if
Great.
you go in there, you should be able to get that stuff.
Check it out. Perfect. Yep.
because I could easily see a neighbor saying, and
How do
you
you
know
know
this,
this?
how?
Got it. Sure, absolutely.
But I think the interesting point here is if this was in a residential area, not within a recreational area,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Then I could see it being more of a concern. I mean, I go, you weren't here when I maybe you were here or not when I wrote in the deck is more lines like, I don't know how anybody could think that the noise level of dogs is going to be any different
There.
than cheering
True.
crowds of
Yes.
people during
It's
sporting
true.
events
Or
there.
playgrounds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
playground
Yep.
activity there. So I think, I don't know if that's worth
Okay.
kind of zinging in there somehow type of stuff, but
Use your sassiness.
The
that I think it's more prevalent here because
Sure.
of the location that we're
Right.
choosing.
Right.
Yeah.
If this was Boy Street, then, all bets are off.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All good. All right. What if something bad happens? First aid kit. An extremely large amount of thought and care has gone into the selection of the site. While it is our hope that there will be no issues, or there will not be any issues with the creation of a dog park, there's always the chance of an accident. As with all public areas, the town is not liable for the actions of people or their pets. Owners alone are responsible for their pets. Well socialized and exercised dogs make excellent canine citizens, thus lowering the risk of any potential issues. Dogs will have a designated area in town that is fully fenced in order to exercise and play off leash. Dogs are required to follow the leash laws of the town when not in the designated area. The distance between the Rocketland playground and the potential dog park at its closest points is 250 feet. Having a dog park in a recreational area is not only convenient but also provides safety for users of the dog park.
So I know when we first opened the document, I said there was too much,
Yes.
but I think when we had our subcommittee meeting, we missed a huge thing.
Okay.
People are going to be worried about the spread of disease.
Okay.
And I pulled out specific things in the study about diseases that are spread by dogs and ways to prevent them, as far as ways that a park can be built to prevent them, and also like responsible dog owner stuff, flea treatments, wiping your dog's paws, things like that. So I think something should be added in there just to address disease, but I'm not sure where and how much and what.
Is it healthy for my dog to go to a dog park?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
a good
I'm just
question.
trying to
And you would answer that by saying,
simplify
Right,
the
yeah.
language.
yes, both psychologically
No,
and
no,
physically
but
for the dog.
I'm thinking from like, all right, can you make
For
the
the
same
human
argument?
too.
Is it healthy for us to go to work, or
Gives
is
it-
it healthy for us to go to school?
Right.
Here's the thing.
is it-
Here's the thing. There are people in the town who believe dogs are dirty, who believe that that dogs will spread disease, and I want to quell that
Right.
Yes.
that
Right.
concern.
Sure.
Null thought. Dogs are already going to Lemansky already
I know.
Without control.
Yep.
without control.
Without
I think
control, so
I think that's
And-
the one that's got to be somewhere on this. That this is happening now.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So in a well-controlled environment.
Yes.
And they're
Great
running around without leash.
They're running around without
Right.
I've
leashes.
seen that plenty of times.
Yes.
Obviously, the
They are
dogs
not
will drink
being
well
cleaned
enough,
up
but
after.
And they're not being picked up after in all of those areas.
Yeah.
So it's all I'm not saying it's all gonna change, because that's
Yeah.
not miraculously gonna change overnight. But the more, they're more apt to be over in this area and going to the bathroom over in this area. And so there is less likely of the interaction.
So I know I already said there was too much, but I think
Sure.
that is something missing that can be addressed here or in another section somewhere.
Okay.
And the key points would be, communicability and infectious
Yep.
disease stuff,
Uh,
which is why I said healthy.
right.
And sources I would add to this too, because of same thing like excellent canine citizens and stuff.
And I would think like AVA would be a good site. The American Veterinary Association would probably be able to give you, or petmed.com.
Well, even just simply stating that all dogs, if there is a fee, which means they need a license to use it, anyone will be required to have those
Yeah.
vaccinations. So
Yeah,
I might just
right.
simply put that on there. All dogs using the park
Yeah.
who will have a license, and in order to acquire a license, they will need to be fully vaccinated,
Yep.
I
etc.
think it's a safer way to go.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
You can't, we
Right.
there's no 100% perfect way of making, this,
Yep.
And again, it's about due diligence. We can't ensure a utopian dog park, but
No.
best
We
efforts.
could get a doggy bouncer. Someone with like maybe a pit bull.
If you
or
read,
a-
if you
or a
read the
big
study,
dog
like some,
Deacon.
if you read the study, some of the parks did have that. They had like lifeguard
Cool.
dog
What,
park.
Deacon? Deacon?
No, you know what I was gonna say? The police chief cited that immediately. When he said that's a good spot.
He-
I
he
like
did.
having it near the police
Near the police
station,
station.
where if there were
Maybe we
problems
should get a
there,
quote from him,
we-
see if we can put it on this
He said it
sheet.
to me on the phone.
I like it.
He said it
says
to me on the
chief.
phone a few days ago.
All right.
I got it verbally from him.
Other comments
Any
on the
others?
safety one?
But I'll definitely add the vaccinated dogs to it for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
And
Great point.
and the fact that it's by Lemansky, it's in Lemansky
Yes.
Park, so it's by the police station.
Yes. Yep.
And,
And if we incorporate the call box.
Oh yeah, the police chief wanted a call
The
box out to
police
the
chief
area
had
anyway.
suggested a call box.
Call box. Okay.
and I'm assuming, as the best practice in your study, the area would be treated for mosquitoes.
Yep, mosquitoes
Ticks,
and
et cetera,
ticks, fleas,
et
and other.
The lice thing.
There was a lot
Yeah.
of stuff about pests in there.
So we're bringing good stuff.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
being psychosomatic.
I know.
After a bit of that.
So the property one, I need the most help with because I didn't do the research in that area, but
It's
I
in
at
the
least
study.
kind of put it
It's in
there.
the study
Okay,
that,
perfect.
Study, right.
that people said that their property values went up
Okay.
after after the dog park. was
But I have,
implemented.
yeah, what we were already said. So whether it's in
Yeah.
our own backyard or in on the other side of town, having a dog park in town actually has a positive impact on our property's values.
Properties
Property,
needs an
Property.
apostrophe.
property,
No, property, singular.
property value, property values.
Property
Okay,
values.
thank you.
A red pen.
Would you like his red pen?
I use red all day. I'm good. Blue is good for me. Dog parks are the number 2 amenity search for when looking for a new home. Schools are number 1. That was from that flyer that we had. Research and professional real estate agents tell us that. I know a few people were going to discuss with real estate agents they knew.
She never got back to me.
Okay, we'll cross that out.
I
I can ask. I know a couple real estate agents. I can at least
Okay.
put in a call then. Human and dog presence discourages crime and learning. That's definitely true.
Yes.
So is there anything else besides maybe just looking at the study and adding some facts?
yeah, that study did mention property values went up. It also mentioned that people are more likely to adopt dogs if they have a dog park in the
Yes,
area,
I did
Yes.
read that. Yep.
which is nice.
And I think to echo a point you had raised, Jim, in the PowerPoint, was we should also state something about the human benefits of the dog park. It decreases isolation, it encourages socialization, et cetera, et cetera.
The fact that it's ADA compliant, people
Right.
people who may not have space in their
Older people.
home and they can't control their dogs because they just let them out and they run down the street, and now they can come on a leash and bring them there and let them go. And
They can't go walk the dog.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
That was a point that we made in the very beginning with the fur friends. That was the ADA piece was huge because, like you said, people who can't walk their dogs, this is great for them.
This is great for
Go
them, right?
let them out, let them
Right.
exercise. But there was a whole slide on the human benefits, and I can definitely add that to another
Okay.
thing. I think I can
Great.
fit it on this side.
Sarah, was it the park in Japan
Oh
where
my god, you could just go
people
rent dogs!
visit
I know you can rent dogs.
rent dogs
Yeah.
for an hour or a day. If you
Oh,
wanted,
love
you
it.
didn't have a
I will
dog.
give people my
You can go
address,
there
they
and
can rent
rent
Deacon anytime they want.
I mean, there are numerous studies that talk about the
Benefits.
positive
Sure.
psychological and emotional implications of pet ownership.
Yep.
It decreases the occurrence of depression, decreases the occurrence of anxiety. It decreases social phobias.
Yep.
I mean, the list goes on and on and on
And,
and on.
and with a
and
dog
on.
park in the area, people are more likely to adopt dogs.
Yep.
More dogs get.
Well, people who don't want a dog park probably don't care about dogs.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, the biggest number is that the pet industry is a $60 billion industry.
Sure.
$60 billion industry, which means people are spending money on pets, which
They
to
love
me
their
makes,
pets.
you know,
Yep.
Right.
it's important to a lot of people out there.
Sure. Great, thank you guys, that's perfect. And then the last piece is where I wanted to put, still have questions or concerns. You're always welcome to attend any of our meetings at the town hall, as they are public. All meetings are recorded and updated on the town's YouTube channel, ACTV Auburn. Thank you. We have a meeting coming up where time has been allotted on the agenda specifically for hearing and addressing concerns of the public.
We're hearing concerns of the public, not addressing.
Not
yeah.
addressing,
Yeah.
yeah, we're not gonna
Yep.
be answering anything.
You were
Thank
hearing.
you.
You were not here that week last
Okay.
week when.
Sorry.
Got it.
When we said
No,
we
don't
wouldn't,
apologize,
yeah,
that's
we
perfect.
wouldn't be
Yep.
answering anything.
Good.
Per the
We're not
town
in that
manager.
position.
Got it.
No dialogue.
No addressing, that's fine.
We listen.
We're gonna
So
be good
hearing-
listeners that
Yep,
day.
good listeners. Before the committee makes their site recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, it's very important for us, or to us, to have, should I say for us, to have public support for this project, or of this project. Please consider joining us at, and then this is where we fill in the information that we choose to do
Yeah.
on the public meeting.
This is fantastic.
Thank you.
so
Thanks, I'm
much.
glad you like it. And sorry I couldn't figure out how to put it on a like working doc, but all the stuff was overlapping and I was
Everything
like,
was
you know
going
what?
crazy.
I'm like, I'll just write on it and
I
then
think
make it
this
edit.
is
So.
great.
It's fan, both of them,
Really.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Thanks everybody.
To the three of you, I think this is a great product.
So, our original plan was to meet today and then have this stuff approved and then start working on outreach in time for a public meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Are we still okay with this?
Public meeting on the 5th.
Or approximately 2 weeks,
5th.
depending on whatever we can
Yeah,
work. If it has
well,
to be a different
as I
day.
say, our regular meeting dates would be the 5th and the 19th.
Right,
Yeah,
so you wanna be ready for the 5th, is that what we're suggesting?
I'm okay with that.
Do
Can
think
we,
we're ready for the 5th?
I think the problem is, can we get the invitations? If
Out
you
there.
want to send something directly to abutters, can you get it out there?
I
For
think,
the 5th, I'm not sure that we'll be able to get all
Yeah, see,
on
that's-
time.
when do you think you could get those final edits in?
I could probably do it tomorrow.
And it is my understanding that part of our directive was to engage the abutters directly in addition to the community at large.
Yes.
So,
was.
And Julie had said that they could assist with the mailing. And my sense is there would be some type of a form letter that could be tweaked to our purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for like ZBA hearings or something.
They might already have one from when they sent them out. for back-
Originally, I was gonna say,
You know,
where's the original?
that's bad karma.
Oh,
yeah. It's too bad, it's true.
But as
Good
a,
point. As a reference.
Reference?
As a reference as to what we wanna say.
I was just being difficult.
No.
Yeah. No being difficult.
So we would need
Let's
to
use
get
what we
that list
have.
of abutters, decide on the distance
Which
that
you
we would
have.
want to reach out to.
I have the list of abutters that I sent to you and you and
Perfect.
you. I didn't know if I was supposed to be able to
Okay.
send it
It's
to
fine. We have
everyone,
it.
Okay.
but we have it. And how many on? I
didn't
forget how many
open
were on
it.
there.
And when this is finished, I can post this to the Auburn site also,
Yeah.
on
Okay.
Facebook and whatnot.
Right.
And the town website,
And the town
Yep.
website.
and,
Yep.
you know, all the different Facebook things.
Yes, all the Facebook things.
I mean, what do you think about the 300 versus the 500 feet thing?
I don't think it's necessary to do 500 considering there are no direct abutters. Not, I mean,
No, there's no one that can see the site.
there's no one that can see
from
the
their
site.
home.
I mean,
Right.
anyone that's abutting is a considerable distance from where the park is, so I don't think it's
Right.
necessary to branch out that far when it's not that much of an impact. If it were Boy Street, I'd want to contact it. We'd be contacting a lot of people.
Sure.
But with where it is in a recreational complex that already exists, I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I don't know that it's necessary to go that far out.
I personally completely agree with you, but I'm trying to think from the perspective of members of the Board of Selectmen that may not be in favor of this project or may be conflicted.
Okay.
And I go back to the words due diligence.
Okay.
Where do we put the line of due diligence? I don't know. I throw it out in a rhetorical sense. I do not know the answer.
Mm.
I could hear it now, and these folks were not notified why. And then as
think
we've
that we
talked
should
about the
notify
nightmare
all
scenario of come back in 30
Just
days.
because-
Just
Yeah.
like all
Because-
of Rifle Street.
Yeah,
All
I just think,
certainly.
yeah, well, why
Whatever's
wouldn't we
on Oxford Street,
include
Oxford
everybody?
Yeah.
So I,
Somebody's gonna say I'm left out.
So here's what I would suggest as a workflow here, right, in terms of steps. We need a list of questions that we then need someone, I'm nominating you because it seems like you're the person, that we can get some validation on the information. Some of it's around, like the fees and the money, but some of it's around, okay, how much lead time do you need in order to get a flyer out there? How long is it going to take to mail? Because we have no visibility into those things right now. That could go from, 24-hour service to 2 weeks. We don't know.
That's right.
So I think we need to know, if there's just two things that need to happen in parallel between now and next week. We need to get our facts and data correct. We need to understand the process for the communications. Are you able at will, I'm assuming for anything that's social media related outside of like the Auburn official website,
Right.
that you have the power to go
Boom.
submit.
Yes.
Okay? So one of the things that we should consider is when, would we need to have it posted on the website. It should be a quick thing type of stuff. So all these kind of logistics around the communication, the time and the date, that needs to happen. I think we're going to run out of time tonight.
Right.
So now I'm thinking that we need to come back next week,
Yep.
and we need to then go through that doc. That's more important than what we
Urban
put
Bureau.
together,
Yep.
because that's critical path.
Sure.
So we get through, so we come back next week, we have all the answers on, the process of the communication pieces. We have data points that then firm up, sources of data, to your point, that help, draw more power to it. Some other things that we want to kind of put in there. We run through that. Now it's about, okay, now I go to my next step, which I know is the printer type person. Now I know as soon as I give that into their hands,
Yes.
I know at that point it's 2 weeks.
Right.
And then we can then say, all right, well
Right.
now what we know at that point.
Right.
So I think that's critical path.
Right.
If we meet next week, then I think the sole purpose is to nail this
Finalize
down
that.
100%.
In the letter that we're going to send
And the
out.
letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that maybe perhaps the three of us could meet as the subcommittee and draft a letter and have both
We
of those.
can't have subcommittees anymore because we
Oh.
have to have minutes and stuff like
Or-
that.
Oh,
So
yeah,
can you
yeah.
put the
Minutes for
letter on
subcommittee.
Google?
We do. Okay.
Could you put the letter on Google?
Yeah,
Put it on
sure.
the drive.
So
I was
we'll
gonna
do
say
it on
we
the
could-
drive.
Okay.
So another thing to add to the question,
That's
is there
a little
a
easier
form
than that
letter
thing.
that we can leverage, that we can then just kind of slide things that has the nice Auburn town, Auburn letterhead on it, that we can just slide our content into,
Right.
right? So,
Did Julie mention anything to you about sending these?
No, I
Or
haven't
how long
spoken
it
to
would
I
her.
think she might, her office might
Well, you
handle
spoke
that,
to
but
her.
I don't know what the
Stated that.
timeline
I
is.
just,
Letters.
I literally just sent her an email
but
after it.
I want to get back to one other thing, right? The broadcast and the reach of this, right? In terms of the selectmen say, well, did everybody know? Okay, well, first off, I think if you're putting it out there on social media and internet sites, that the outreach of that is everyone. Now, whether or not everyone chooses to go off and look at that,
Yeah.
different story, but that's what those sources are out there for. I think in terms of hard copies, if we go a street over and that then generates another 30 copies and 30 more posters to pay for, then that's money well spent that potentially no one come back and say I didn't know.
I
He
didn't
says
know.
he's that
Right,
type of
Right,
thing.
right.
I
And
agree
So-
with that completely.
We were
I think if you
already-
leave anybody out and you say, oh, we're only gonna go this far, then the person that's the next door neighbor is gonna say, well, why not me?
Yeah.
So I wanna make sure that everyone is involved. I don't wanna leave anybody out. Because
Right.
if we leave anybody out,
Yep.
then we're setting ourselves up for people that are just gonna say, well, we didn't know that and we're not happy with that.
We already said we were.
We already did that once.
The three of us were gonna go to grooming salons and vets and
Pet shops,
pet
everything.
stores and things like that in town and
Sure.
kennels and just see if we can post these there as well.
And I think the thing
But
we
I think
need,
the hard copy is
Oh, yeah,
really
absolutely,
important, and
absolutely.
it's really important that it goes to everyone. It just is.
I feel like the thought that I had in my mind when I was developing the data that I provided to Jim is a quote that Julie used in the previous selectmen's meeting. Yes, I'll put that in the drive, all that stuff. But she said that the dog park must be good for the community as a whole.
Right.
Now, we in this room, we are proponents of the dog park, but we need to persuade it with data. So I think that's what I tried to keep in mind when I was pulling data. Must be good for the community as a whole.
Well, I think as a committee, we've proven that in our meetings, and I think we're going to prove that in our PowerPoint, and I think it also
Yes.
stands in the flyer.
Yeah.
I think we've accomplished everything that we need to accomplish. I think we're literally like 1 or 2 meetings away from going, bazinga, here it is, and this is what we've got. And I think, again, going through what we've gone through, I think we've on paper proven that this is good for the community.
Another option, right, is there's only so much real estate on a two-sided flyer, right? And if we start talking about data sources and all this, other stuff, and some we could certainly probably place throughout that, but what we could also do is consider putting a link on the flyer that then goes to somewhere
That's a
on the
great
Town of
idea.
Auburn site that then says, okay, there's even more information out there if you so care to
Sure.
choose.
For
and
more
there-
information, go to.
and then from
Right.
there, you can cite more services and stuff like
Right.
that,
Right.
so,
Do you
that,
have a piece like that?
Yeah.
I do.
Where you talk about our meetings being available, right?
Yeah, it's right
Oh
there.
yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah,
say
yeah,
you're
yeah.
always welcome to any of our
But,
meetings.
yeah, but
All
there was
meetings
no
are recorded.
website
That's
that she was
basically. Yeah.
attaching to it.
I just wrote that,
Yeah.
Right.
but I could put a link.
We could link it, yeah, just put it, in every one, have a link to just something different that, shows.
The numbers, by the way, are 43 and 74. 43
Oh,
within
thank you.
300 feet and 74 within 500
I don't think
feet.
there's any
I just
reason
said
why we can't send the extra 30.
74, move on.
But to the point of logistics, I'm hearing meeting next week, but I'm hearing not feasible. So,
Do we have a different day than Wednesday that we could all meet?
no room at the inn.
I have no problem meeting a different day.
And I have no issues meeting a different day as well, so.
I don't
is there-
either, but you run into the problem
know
of
what
not
this-
having reserved a room.
Right.
Or having
But I'm just
a
saying, if
reserved
we have
or-
enough people
Mr.
that are
Evans?
available on different days, that maybe we could
Do you have
actually
the
come up with a
schedule?
different day.
I just have it through March.
Do you have it for next,
For next
week?
week?
Next week.
Even if we pick another day.
Even if we picked another day, is there something?
What about Randall?
Let's just pause for a moment.
Monday, I have no idea about Monday. I don't think there's anything on Monday, whatever Monday's date is. Tuesday, it's school committee at Randall.
Tuesday
And
there's a.
Wednesday,
town
it's
meeting.
finance and planning board, that's the 29th.
So
And what about
Thursday?
Thursday?
Thursday, nothing.
Are you available
Is
Thursday?
anybody available Thursday?
Could be.
Oh,
I would
So,
be okay with Thursday.
So if
You'd
we
be
can't
okay?
meet
Yeah.
Wednesday,
I'll
would
dash
you
it through and
be
see if I
willing to
can
meet
get
on
it.
Thursday instead?
I have a conflict for that
Okay.
particular day, but I
Okay.
mean, if you have enough
What about-
meetings, if you have enough representation, don't stop
Just so
on
long
my
as you
account.
put things in the drive, I think.
As long as you put stuff in the drive and or what about Tuesday? Did we say there was
There's a town meeting Tuesday.
Tuesday, the school committee at Randall.
Monday is open.
Monday is open?
Monday and Tuesday.
Monday posting.
Would be
So what about Tuesday, Jim?
tomorrow.
No, the 28th is the town meeting.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
it's-
what about Monday? I'm
That's
sorry.
That's right, yeah.
Today's,
Takes care of
You
that.
better be there.
We would have to post the agenda or.
it would need to be.
Oh, we would have to
like
post it tomorrow. Right.
You hate us, I know.
Yes.
But, if we can do it, we can do it. Let's work this out. If we can't do it until Thursday and Jim can't be here and you're all set with everything that's going on, that's cool too. So
I'm
let's
set.
look at both days.
Monday or Thursday next week?
Monday or Thursday.
I'm okay with that.
Both work for me.
Both are fine for me as well.
I can create availability.
Well, there doesn't have to be much of an agenda.
No, I don't think it has to be much of it. It's
Just
going to be
to
the
prepare-
approval of,
yeah,
No.
to
the
prepare
approval of the flyer
But I
and
want
letter.
our secretary there, because I don't want to take notes.
What, like, is this my
Wow.
role in life?
Just wow.
It's just
That's
you're so
okay.
good at it.
She is, she is.
No, I would, oh, I'm being recorded. Thank you for
Thank you for that
that
compliment.
feedback. You know what I'm really thinking.
Yep.
Great. So,
But you tell me, do you want to,
I'm
could possibly do
available Monday or
Thursday. I mean,
Thursday.
because my wife's out of town for a conference.
Bring the children.
Meeting.
No, you don't want to do that.
it'll be like that.
Yes,
CNN
you bring
I
reporter.
could probably do like a
Music
6 to 7:30. I
On
could
which
be
day?
there, you know.
Okay.
On
I mean,
Thursday.
we're just gonna work on
We're
this
only
document.
working on that, and we're
Yeah.
going to approve that, and
Do
then
you
on our
want
next
your-
meeting, we'll work on yours.
do you want your hours to be the normal hours?
What? What do you
6 to whenever.
think? 6 to whenever? 6 to whenever is always good.
Okay, so would you like it the 30th at 6 p.m.?
By
I don't think it's going to be
Next-
any more than an hour.
by
I can't
next
imagine.
If we have, well, I would say, preface that, if we have the data around the process to launch communications.
No, you need
and-
your
and
you
that
need your
data-
comment. With that said,
Yeah,
With
put
that,
it in the you put
No.
there you go.
With that said, when do
It's a
you want
Jimism.
the meeting that this is all leading up to?
So-
That's my question.
approximately 2 weeks after that, depending on availability, which is what I was going to ask is by next meeting, could you grab a couple could you look at the schedule and find a couple days that might work for that
For the
room?
selectmen? Oh, for the selectmen, you mean?
Because we would need that.
because we
need the
need
big
that
room.
room for the
For the public meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you could just see a couple days and times where that room might be available, and then we can decide on one next week.
And we vote on it next week, right? Right.
Can you do that?
I shall be.
He's writing it in red.
I,
so
I,
think
I
he's
guess
gonna do
a
it.
good data point in terms of figuring that out is as soon as you know, Chairman, what some of these turnaround times might be for production of a flyer and mailing. So like for instance, they tell you, well, it's going to take us 3 days, 4 days. I mean, at that point, you should be able to kind of maybe ballpark, assuming the 29th, we're ready to go. Final copy is there. So
Yep.
that at that point, we're going to take that document and send it to an email or drop it on someone's lap, and it's going to go at that point. And then from there, if we're running 2 weeks, from that time frame, then you can start kind of placing out calendar-wise where you think you might land. But until we get that data point, I mean,
Yeah.
we're just kind of grasping at dates that could potentially be there. That
But we
Right.
also have to look
Right.
at what's available.
Right.
So.
Right.
Right.
And we only have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So we need to.
All right. So, anything else quick?
My question, it's okay to still, so if we approve it, with maybe the exception of the date and time, that's okay, right? It doesn't have to be finalized when we vote on it.
No,
No,
only has
no,
to be
no.
finalized by
with
the
the exception
date
of blah, blah, blah.
By the date.
that Julie
Right.
tells us it can.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why,
Reach
like, we can vote on it and just
abutters.
say, like, kind of like with minutes, with the
Yeah, with the
expectation
date
that.
to be.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Right.
just making sure, because I'm like,
Okay.
I mean, there's no point in adding additional stress.
Right.
So,
No.
just confirm Thursday at 6? Is that what we're?
Thursday
is what we're shooting for.
Not tomorrow, but next Thursday at 6. All right. Move to adjourn.
Second.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So
Oh, I never thought.